Good evening, pilots and mercs. Today we're going to be going over Big Red 40 techs, BATTLETECH heavy mechs, and we're also going to do the assault mechs too since we're here. They're a little bit shorter of videos, so I figure that'd be a good start to today. A good start indeed. So grab your snacks, grab your drinks, and let's roll the film. BATTLETECH heavy mechs. Let's see it.
In this video, the third part in our series, we are going to be examining the general purpose behind the battle mechs ranging between 60 to 75 tons during the Succession War era. This will be a brief overview of the purpose of these machines on the battlefield, and why they are important to any formation, and, in this instance, often taking up the role as either breakthrough mechs, giving companies and battalions another enormous important tool to utilize, or as command mechs.
They do have a presence as command mechs, I've noticed, because the catapult, the Warhammer, and the Marauder here seem to have a very commanding presence on the battlefield. I do wonder specifically about this Marauder here. Can its arms go backwards? Because I've seen rear firing weapons as far as like the BattleTech lore goes. Because again, that's what I'm basing most of my opinions on when it comes to these mechs. I've had more of a change of heart when it comes to different things, but I'm kind of wondering if these can rear fire. It looks like the actuators could move in that direction, but I don't know. I don't know how that rule applies for Marauders. I wonder if he'll explain a
There are
little bit
few
about
larger
it.
machines on the battlefield, and few quite as heavily armed outside of the vaunted assault.
I know I keep commenting about the art, but what's interesting is that there are several mechs that I'll do this to. Two of them relevant for today. The Thor / the Summoner, and then the Loki / the Hellbringer, not the Hellspawn, which is technically I think the Hellspawn was a medium mech, but regardless, they look very similar here, so it's often hard to tell them apart. I want to say this is the Thor based on where the archer pod is, or the LRM, excuse me. I also do that with the Warhawk and the I'm gonna butcher the name of this again. I want to say it's called the Daiichi. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing it because, again, that's how I hear it in my head every time. My pronunciation comes from MechWarrior 3, and I could have misheard it while it was going through the mission briefings. But anyways, let's continue.
Mechs. Expensive, hard to maintain, and difficult to replace, though still able to move with some speed and maneuverability. Tactically, heavy mechs are some of the most important units in the world of BattleTech, being able to outfight most of their medium counterparts in direct engagements. Capable of fulfilling a multitude of roles and often given to formation commanders, veterans, and elites, these war machines are feared throughout the inner sphere with reason. There are a variety of roles that heavy mechs are tasked with in BattleTech, beyond simply being lumbering bruisers. It's quite the opposite, in fact. During this era, these battle mechs on average run between 64 km per hour and 86 km per hour, which are the average range of movement for all mechs during this era. Though they tend to, of course, skew towards the lower speed. They are heavily armed and heavily armored comparatively as well, offering extremely good protection under most circumstances, barring a few standouts. These vehicles, however, are very costly to produce, and much of the technology surrounding them, though it isn't lost, is very much in high demand with little production. Much like their counterparts, heavy mechs tend to be pushed into a series of roles based on their weight range. In this case, these battle mechs tend to acquire the following purposes. They are mainline battle mechs, and, in fact, specialize in this role more than any other class. They operate as breakthrough mechs, smashing through enemy lines and allowing faster moving units and light units to make exploits through these areas. They are known for being heavy brawlers. They operate as long-range direct fire support mechs and long-range indirect fire support mechs.
It's interesting that he delineates the fact that they're command mechs, breakthrough mechs, because most of the time I consider these to be more the mechs that you see typically throughout the Mech Warrior series. I'm specifically denoting Mech Warrior 3, and I think Mech Warrior 5 fell into this as well. The Mech Assault series is infamous for this, where you will see a lot of these. You will see a lot of these. Not so much the Marauder, unfortunately. Like, Mech Warrior 5, you might see more of them, but you'll definitely see a lot more heavy-hitting mechs in the heavy category come flying through. And it's refreshing to see them more fit as these are the mechs that are going to be more top of the food chain. Like, you're going to see these more often as the mechs that are going to break through the battlefield, not necessarily the ones that are the battlefield when it comes to Mech Warrior. I don't know if I gave that a good explanation, but it's kind of frustrating when those are used most often as your stock mechs.
And finally, and most importantly, in many, many circumstances, they will be the most common mechs to be the go-to command mech for both local and overall commanders and formations. Whereas light mechs may have pure speed as a defense, and medium mechs may strike an excellent balance between speed and capability, the heavy chassis begins the process of moving toward.
I think it's funny. This has nothing to do with the video, and more so the art. It's funny to me to see this black knight with an axe. Like, how bad did your last battle go that you had to swap out your sword for an axe? Like, not even axe, just a hatchet. Like, yeah, this is something House Davion would do. It took you how many years to figure out which prince is going to be top of the food chain? Y'all still can't decide that shit? Get out of here.
Towards heavier firepower and armor above speed. The engine-to-weight ratio at this point is where high-speed engines would weigh far in excess of what could be supported by the mechs. For instance, a 75-ton heavy mech moving 86 kilometers per hour would require a 375 standard engine in the Succession Wars, and it would weigh 38.5 tons. This would cripple the mech.
Yeah, that is a behemoth of an engine. Keep in mind, the 370 Star Fusion engine is relegated mostly towards your assault mechs. Like, by the time you're putting 370 in your mech, you've essentially gotten to the top of the battle mechs.
Ability to fight. So, the engine is skewed towards lower speeds on most heavies to gain the advantage that the extra bulk will bring, which is mostly firepower. This weight range of mechs also contains some of the most iconic designs in the whole of the Succession.
What in the world are you? This looks like, I want to say, given the like wide chassis, like that's an awesome, but I have never seen an awesome with SRM6s on both. Again, this is these are the older designs, so this wouldn't be an awesome, and this time period is a lot scrunchier. I don't know if that's a word, but like it's a lot more scrunched up together. Usually comes with 3 PPCs and a small laser. If you have one of the other variants, you might be able to get 4 PPCs on there, but usually not this. And the cockpit shape is completely wrong for an awesome. So yeah, that's peculiar. I do like this mech though. And I love how it's being belt fed over here to what I can assume is a rotary autocannon 5. Because that's way too big to be a machine gun. But that's like its only armaments too. Yeah, I really like this mech. Whatever this one is, I think I need one
and BattleTech
at
as
some
well.
point.
Looking at several designs will give an idea of the power and prestige of these vehicles. One of the best examples of this, the original poster boy for all of BattleTech,
The
is the
Marauder.
Marauder. Weighing in at 75 tons, it reaches the top of the mech's weight tree. Its armor and armament is vastly superior to anything a medium mech could hope to field, and it outguns even some designs in the assault mech tree, the subject of our next video. With twin PPCs,
Which is kind of odd. It's kind of odd. Because the Marauder has 2 PPCs and an autocannon 5. It's like it is definitely positioned in that field. But I feel like a Warhammer at 5 tons less. I feel like if that's true for the Marauder, then the Warhammer should absolutely be able to take on an assault mech as well. Because it has a lot of firepower too. And to be fair, some of the assault mechs, now you have the Charger, which again, that's not to talk ill about the Charger. I love my Charger. It's a very good mech and it has its use cases, especially when you want that one small mech that's been absolutely hounding your other mechs to be flatter than a pancake. You go to the Charger and you say, I'll head full. But I'm just like, I don't see what armaments this has that the higher category wouldn't. Or like some of the other mechs in the heavyweight. I mean, it looks cool, don't get me wrong. And this is no shade against any of the mechs I've mentioned here. I'm just saying, like, I don't understand what the Marauder has that a lot of the other assault mechs didn't. I guess you have your quick draw or whatever, Dragon as well, that doesn't really have that
twin medium lasers, and an
ability to
autocannon,
stand up to
it can
the
lay down
assault
heavy
mechs.
fire and strip armor off of enemy targets. Though its own armor is mid-tier for a heavy mech, it possesses more than enough to enter battles with mechs in its own weight range. Operating as both a frontline mech, a direct fire support mech, and as a command mech, this famous mech has many variants and accolades as well, and is one of the most impressive machines of the Succession War era. Another example of a superb machine would be the Archer, weighing 70 tons and being utilized.
This is just a, I want to call it a vulture. And again, no shade to the Archer. I absolutely love my missile boats. Every time I think of a missile boat, I think of the vulture. And that's not because I love clans. It's because I would destroy the clanner in it. And then I would take their mech and then point it right back at them. So every time I see the Archer or the vulture, I'm just like, I love my LRM boats, especially more nowadays because I've learned how to use them a little bit more effectively. Whereas before, it's like I don't think I appreciated the LRMs quite as much as I used to. I I might have been a slow learner, but I have definitely started to learn a lot more about the LRM. They're not fielding LRMs in this one. They're fielding PPCs. Fair enough. Fair enough. I can respect that.
Utilized as a command mech and indirect support mech, this machine carries an immense payload of long-range missiles and can defend itself up close with a battery of medium lasers. It's also very heavily armored. Mechs like this, the Bombard, and the Catapult represent the heaviest dedicated missile boats commonly seen in this era, and each one has the capability of suppressing or destroying almost any position with waves upon waves of unrelenting fire. As a final example, we will look at the dual combo of the Grasshopper and the Guillotine. These mechs, their designs...
Okay, so the Grasshopper I've heard of. That one makes sense, but the Guillotine, I think I've heard of very rarely. Like, it's not a mech that I've seen on the front lines that often.
and capabilities are almost exactly the same, so it's worthwhile showing them together. Heavily
Yes,
armored
please.
and displaying an array of close-range firepower, the 70-ton monsters get in close range and hammer their opponents with lasers and missiles, while utilizing their mobility, gifted through jump jets, to both bound into trouble and out of trouble. Ideal.
Which, again, you're starting to get to the point where mechs just don't have jump jets anymore. When you approach the 70-ton range or higher, you just stop having jump jets at this point because they're just usually too heavy, unless you're a Highlander, and which case you're just powered to the spite of the bagpipes. But that's for another video. Well, that's for another part of this video.
In dense terrain, they are only outdone in this respect by the heaviest battle mechs with similar capabilities. There are countless other iconic mechs we've not discussed. The Warhammer is arguably more iconic than the Marauder, and may perform its role better in many respects. The devastating Thunderbolt and Crusader designs, as well as the Rifleman, all have merits of their own, as well as many others such as the Dragon, Orion, or Black Knight. But we only have so much time in these videos. Almost as diverse as medium mechs, and still frequent enough to be a sight on many battles.
He says that because a lot of these videos are going to start approaching the hour-long ranges just for the history, the amount of variants, the weapon systems on these various mechs. And technically, those are a piece. Yes, the lore will go on for about an hour a piece for each of these mechs, if not more. So when he says this is a broad overview, this is what a heavy battle mech is. We're going to touch briefly on these specific points. And that's it. That is all you need to know. This is everything you're going to learn about a mech today.
Battlefields.
This kind
Even
of
if they aren't the majority of the participants, heavy mechs are a terrifying sight to behold for any mech warrior. Their only shortcoming being their inability to push their speeds to the highest point, and their relative scarcity and expensive operating cost makes these machines incredibly hard targets to approach for any would-be mech aces. They exist in the Succession Wars as chariots of mech commanders and their elite warriors, riding into war with the greatest armor and weapons. Thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. With that, I will catch you in the comments section below.
Oh, oh, we definitely will. We're gonna go ahead and continue on with the assault mechs. However, if you want to support this video, which you very much should, or the original content creator, remember that the links to these videos are in the description and or the pinned card for this video. With that all said, let's get into the assault mechs. Well, there he is. Mr. Skull himself. A mech as for as ugly as it is formidable, so that fear itself might be our ally. I might have butchered that quote, but I at least tried. It is the Atlas.
In this video, the fourth and final part
And we
of our
absolutely
series,
love it.
we are going to be examining the general purpose behind the battle mechs ranging from 80 to 100 tons during the Succession War era. This will be a brief overview of the purpose of these machines on the battlefield and why they are important in specific formations.
I don't know why he's kind of low on
And in
this
this
one.
case, are the ultimate level of on-field firepower brought to bear by any organization. There are no machines more feared as a whole than these. And though there is
Technically that's true. However, there are some mechs that are over 100 tons that, again, you don't necessarily start dealing with those because, well, once you go over 100 tons, you basically stop being in the realm of practicality, and you generally have issues with the mechs actually functioning at that point. Because again, they aren't really able to move all that well. I think there's only like a handful of experimental mechs that go beyond 100 tons. For instance, I think the Stone Rhino or the Martar is the only one that goes beyond that, which is like 110 tons, which was, again, the Stone Rhino afterwards. I think there was the Okra as well that comes in at like I want to say 130. But again, it stops being practical and useful because, again, your assault mechs are already going about the speed of an Irby with comparable firepower.
the opportunity to outmaneuver them, or to lure them into conditions which may not be ideal for them. No machines outside of this weight class can truly stand toe-to-toe with them. The Assault Mech class are often rightly viewed as Grim Reapers or lumbering Lords of War. Extraordinarily rare and extremely expensive to maintain and repair, the Assault Mech is the rarest sight on the battlefield. In some instances, smaller military campaigns will be enacted without their participation in the slightest, on both the attacker and defender's parts. These vehicles are not trivial machines to see on the battlefield, and play their role in the military in very specific ways during the Succession Wars. Their weight prohibits even the most powerful engines from offering them significant speed boosts, meaning their tactical mobility is extremely limited, and in protracted campaigns with poor logistics, their strategic mobility is abysmal. The ability to produce assault mechs is, to say the least, very sparse, with few new units ever leaving the production lines across the inner sphere, and the number of roles they can fulfill on the battlefield is frankly limited.
You know, it's funny that he says all this, because when you go to play Mech Warrior, Mech Assault, any of the games, quite frankly, you would be mistaken, you would be forgiven for thinking that these mechs weren't as common as, say, I don't know, maybe as common as a, let's just say, $50 bill or something, or a $100 bill, right? It's like you don't see them all the time, but you see them enough to where it's like, I mean, they are there and they will absolutely mess up your day, and you see more of them than you quite frankly should. It's like power armor for Fallout 4. It's like this thing's supposed to be rare, but yet I literally walk from place to place and I will probably see a suit of power armor somewhere around there, just happen to be abandoned. And it's kind of what I was saying with the heavy mechs too. It's like you see far more of them than you really should for it to be like a command mech. Like I myself have way more than I probably logistically should have of these, but
With all these
we'll
limitations in
continue.
mind, one may think these rare behemoths may not be desirable to deploy, even when available. But what they can do, when supported, they can do exceptionally well. Assault battle mechs are principally used for what their class's name means. They are used for direct assault, and for making up the point of the spear in a major breakthrough operation against entrenched opponents or against heavy and assaults managing a defense. They can fulfill roles like long range fire support and indirect fire support as well, but even in these instances, their slow movement makes those roles difficult at times due to certain circumstances. To the point, however, this is neither here nor there. Almost every single assault mech is carrying enough firepower to level a city block, and to decimate anything foolish enough that gets in its way. And this alone gives them an incredible capacity on the battlefield. Slow, heavily armored, and extremely heavily armed, these machines often have a mythology about them even, such as the Highlander Burial, or the Atlas throwing a medium mech with its arm in urban legends. There is very little versatility in the weight range as a result of all this, and any attempt to deviate from this during the Succession Wars often led to disappointing mechs such as the Charger or most variants of the Banshee. Probably the most famous assault battle mech in battle.
And it's unfortunate because the Charger could absolutely be a phenomenal mech in the idea that it does its mainstake. It's designed to crush. It's designed to crush mechs underfoot. And if it was actually supported well, you could get away with that. But I think it needed a lot more technology than it had available to it at the time in order to make that really work.
BattleTech during this era is rightly the Atlas. Weighing in at 100 tons and having 19 tons of armor, the most in the standard game, as well as having an overwhelming roster of weaponry and heat dispersion capabilities for its technology, this monster among machines lumbers onto the battlefield with supreme lordship over anything insane enough to think it can take it on. Nearly impervious to fire, seemingly, its autocannon and missile packages will often leave opponents as little more than a radiated flaming wreckage to be salvaged after the battle. In close is its ideal range, with its heavy autocannon, medium lasers, and missiles shredding anything that comes into its sights. Slow at moving only 54 kilometers per hour, the best defense most mechs have to this Goliath is to simply avoid it altogether, lest they be its next victim.
I love how the Atlas is an all around, like, decent mech, right? And I think that's why it ends up usually being one of the most sought after mechs. Because as you can see here, has its autocannon, the missile packages, the laser. Although this one's probably like, I would say probably an anti-pigeon laser. Because when you want everything on that battlefield to be a smoking crater, the pigeons are definitely on that list somewhere.
They be its next victim. There are mechs, which of course don't represent this extreme. For example, there is the Victor. It moves the standard 64 kilometers per hour and weighs in at 80 tons. It carries a massive heavy autocannon, lasers, and short-range missiles, as well as reduced armor at only 12.5 tons as compared to most of its stablemates. Where it makes up for this is in its massive jump jets, allowing it to propel through the air to new positions. Moderate speed, hard, close-in punching power, and reasonable maneuverability makes this mech one of the standouts that can break the...
It might be able to break the mold on that one. I will give it that. But unless that cannon here can be reversed, which I've heard some of the arms can be reversed so you can fire behind you. I don't like the Victor for the same reason I don't like the Centurion. But if, again, you can fire behind you, then it kind of makes up for that. Because, again, BattleTech rules, the damage is annoyingly kind of spread out evenly across the mech because you don't have as much armor. So this actually makes sense. Now, the other issue is that if you can rotate this behind you and then fire, I can see where that could be useful. But as far as Mech Warrior goes, this thing really is limited by that design. And it's just one of those things where it's like, Mech Warrior, I don't like this thing as much. BattleTech, I could see where this thing is actually quite formidable. It has an array of options and genuinely could be a lot more maneuverable. I could see that. So it really depends upon which side you're coming from.
The set purpose of assault mechs. For long-range support, there are a multitude of mechs. The Venerable Awesome comes to mind when thinking of direct fire support.
Hey,
with
there
its
he is.
3 particle projectile cannons and enough heat-sinking capabilities to fire these shots frequently, as well as enough armor to rival almost any machine. Then there's the Battlemaster, a favorite amongst commanders who have had the opportunity to acquire one. Moderate speed at 64 kilometers per hour, great weapon options with medium lasers, short-range missiles, and a PPC in the right arm to boot, as well.
Loki, I think the original design for the Battlemaster is one of the best, like, classic designs. I have no idea why they switched it to the new one. Because the new one, you could almost be forgiven for thinking that it looked like an awesome. It looks like an awesome if it was more bricky. Like, this thing, I could actually see me piloting. I mean, minus this here. Just, we gotta talk about the House Davion logo, though.
As reasonable armor values for an 85-ton assault mech. And this machine also has the benefit of an advanced electronics package in the cockpit of the mech, allowing it to act as a commander more effectively.
Interesting.
This battle mech can punch through enemy formations or act as a battlefield command mech, and is one of the best at either of those roles. This is without mentioning, of course, other machines in the range. The terrifying longbow with its immense missile package, the Zeus with its balanced weapon set and moderate speed, the Stalker with its mixed weapons package and extreme volume of firepower overall, or the updated Steiner variant of the Banshee, which is arguably one of the most dangerous mechs of this era, even if it only appears later on in the Succession Wars. There are other assaults which we've not touched on, but all of them have their role in the class. The term Lords of the Battlefield is often given to these machines, or Kings of the Battlefield, but I personally don't see them that way. Their roles, though impressive and powerful, are too limited for that to be true. Instead, I view assault mechs of the Succession War era as beasts, emerging from their lairs to strike down the lords and ladies of the Succession Wars, before slinking back into their dens to rest until they are needed once again.
That is
They are
very
the
true.
monsters of the battlefield. Thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. With that, I'll catch you all in the comments section below.
I think these are very good overviews of these particular weight classes. And I think once I learn a little bit more about the BattleTech side of things, because I have been trying to, it's just been a little bit touch and go trying to learn the tabletop side of things and become better at that point. But it kind of skews my opinion about these battle mechs very much, because the heavy in particular see a lot more use than the light and medium battle mechs, and then the assaults are just like, I mean, that's where you're eventually going to end up in the Mech Warrior 3, Mech Warrior 5 side of things. And I think once you start leaning in towards BattleTech and tabletop, they all get their own nature, their own sort of roles in the battlefield, which I appreciate a lot more than, even if it is a little frustrating sometimes, just basically going, we're never going to use light or medium battle mechs ever again, because the only thing that's left on the battlefield is just giant war machines and constantly blowing each other up. It's like, I mean, that's great, but at the end of the day, we kind of get a little tired of that, and I'd like to field something else other than, oh, we're going to be fielding a king crab. Oh, we're going to be fielding a longbow. Oh, we're going to be fielding a marauder. It's like, I basically never got to use the light mechs or the medium mechs all that much because of that particular side of things. So I think the fact that BattleTech kind of fixes that issue quite often is a good thing. But if you have any suggestions or just general thoughts about the video, please leave them below. Please remember to support the original content creator, Big Red. And with that, this has been Call Sign Annika, signing out.